The Man Who Owned America, the Untold Story of J.P. Morgan. Imagine one man controlling America's entire economy. No title, no political office, no army, just money, strategy, and absolute power. A man who could walk into the White House and tell the president what to do. A man who saved the United States from collapse. Twice. A man whose bank still controls trillions today. This is the story of J.P. Morgan. Not a hero, not a villain, but something more dangerous, a system in human form. What you're about to hear isn't just history. It's how one man's decisions shaped the modern world we live in right now. Subscribe, because this story will change how you see money, power, and control forever. Let's begin. The Boy Who Hated Weakness. April 17th, 1837. Hartford, Connecticut. A baby boy opens his eyes. His name, John Pierpont Morgan. The world expects him to die young. Why? He's sick. Constantly. Seizures. A skin disease called rosacea that turns his nose red and swollen. He can't run. Can't play. Can't be normal. Other kids play baseball. Young Morgan reads financial ledgers. Other kids dream of adventures. Morgan dreams of controlling systems. His father, Junius Spencer Morgan, was a powerful international banker, but he had no tolerance for weakness. His message was clear. You are either disciplined or forgotten. So while America played, Morgan studied. Boston schools, German universities, currency exchange, gold prices, international finance. At age 20, he said something chilling. I don't want a hobby. I want a kingdom. Age 20. Morgan starts working in New York City at Duncan, Sherman and Company. Not a normal job. From day one, he's surrounded by billion-dollar conversations, international trades, risky investments, powerful men, and young Morgan doesn't just listen. He hunts. He learns that numbers don't lie. People do. Real power doesn't come from having money. It comes from making others believe you're the only one who can save them. His personality? Terrifying. Commanding voice. Deep, piercing eyes. A face that made grown men nervous. He walked into rooms like he owned them, even when he didn't. The first controversial move. 1861 to 1865. America's Civil War rages. Most people are fighting for their country. Morgan? He's fighting a different war. The war of reputation. Here's what he did. He bought 5,000 rifles from the government at $3.50 each. Then sold them back to the government for $22 each. Massive profit. Massive controversy. Was it ethical? Was it cruel? Was it genius? We won't judge. We're just telling the story. But this deal gave Morgan his first real title. The man who knows how to make the system work for him. 1871. The real empire begins. Morgan partners with Anthony Drexel. They form Drexel, Morgan and Company. Not just a bank. A power base. Morgan begins investing in railroads, steel companies, electric companies, telegraph lines. But he doesn't just invest money. He takes control. Company failing? He fires the managers, replaces leadership, restructures everything in his own image. People call this Morganization. Fix it the Morgan way or it dies. And guess what? It works. Morgan saves railroads, banks, industries, but always makes himself more powerful in the process. His philosophy: never invest in a business. Invest in the man who runs it. And if the man is weak, replace him. The Railroad King. Late 1800s. Railroads are America's lifeblood. But there's a problem. Too many small companies fighting like animals. The entire system is collapsing. Who steps in? Morgan. The famous Albany meeting. Two railroad giants, New York Central and Pennsylvania Railroad, are about to destroy each other with price wars. Morgan invites both sides to his YCHD. He locks the doors, doesn't yell, doesn't beg, simply says, "You will either cooperate or you will both die." Within hours, the deal is done. War stopped. Peace made. Result? By the 1890s, Morgan controls 60% of all railway lines in the United States. Let that sink in. One man, 60% of America's transportation. But Morgan isn't satisfied with trains. He wants the entire structure of American capitalism. 1891. He helps finance Thomas Edison's electric company, merges it into what becomes General Electric, G, one of the most powerful corporations in the world. Morgan is no longer just a man. He's a machine of capital. The day Morgan saved America the first time. 1893. America faces its worst financial crisis in history. Stock market crashes, banks closing, people panicking. And here's the shocking part. The U.S. government is running out of gold. The dollar, backed by gold, is losing trust. If gold reserves drop too low, the dollar collapses. President Grover Cleveland has no idea what to do. So who does he call? Jpmorgan. February morning, 1895. Morgan walks into the White House. Not as a guest, not as a servant, as a savior. He tells President Cleveland, "I will give you $62 million worth of gold. In exchange, I want a private bond sale with interest." This wasn't charity. This was a deal. Within weeks, gold reserves restored. Dollar chafed. Panic stopped. The message was clear. When the government fails, J.P. Morgan will fix it. But he'll never do it for free. Some newspapers, shocked. Some politicians, angry. How can one private man have more power than the U.S. government? But others whispered, "Thank God Morgan exists." After 1895, Morgan's name becomes legend. But legends come with fear. The public starts asking, is this man too powerful? Can he control our lives? Who voted for him? Morgan doesn't care, never answers critics, simply focuses on the next deal. The birth of U.S. Steel, the billion-dollar deal. Early 1900s, the age of steel. Steel builds skyscrapers, bridges, railroads, ships, weapons. Steel is the future. Whoever controls steel controls America's backbone. One name ruled, Andrew Carnegie. Scottish immigrant, self-made giant, charismatic, energetic. His steel mills were unmatched. Morgan knew one thing. I can never dominate America unless I dominate steel. The difference between these two titans. Carnegie, emotional, proud, loved being seen, wanted to be remembered as kind. Morgan, cold, calculating, silent, hated publicity, wanted power and order. Opposites, and opposites almost never work together. 1900 to 1901, the impossible happens. Carnegie, now aging, goes to Scotland on vacation. He writes a small note with a number, the price to sell his entire steel empire. A number so high most men would faint. His partner, Charles Schwab, brings it to Morgan's private library. Morgan reads the number, looks up, simply says, "Tell Mr. Carnegie, I accept." No fight, no argument, no drama. Just like that, Carnegie becomes one of the richest men on earth. Morgan becomes owner of America's steel backbone. 1901, Morgan creates United States Steel Corporation, U.S. Steel, the first company in world history worth over $1 billion, over $40 billion today. Not just a business achievement, a global earthquake. For the first time, a private corporation had more financial power than many countries. Who stood at the top? jpmorgan. Without raising his voice, without one speech, he built the largest financial empire the world had ever seen. The Panic of 1907. Morgan saves America again. Early 1900s look strong on the surface, but behind the scenes, chaos. Small banks borrowing too much, investors gambling, fake companies rising, everyone chasing fast money. October 1907. The bubble pops. Stock market crashes. Banks run out of money. People rush to withdraw savings. Factories shut down. True panic. But there's one problem. America has no central bank. No Federal Reserve yet. The government realizes the only man powerful enough to save us is J.P. Morgan. Morgan is now 70 years old. Not young, not healthy, but his mind? Sharper than ever. He's in his private library when the panic begins. Bankers, industrialists, government officials, everyone begs, "Mr. Morgan, please. The country needs you." Like a commander walking back to the battlefield, Morgan stands up, closes his doors, cancels meetings, lights a cigar, says, "Bring me the facts." For 3 days and 3 nights, he barely sleeps. Creates a war room inside his library. Studies every failing bank, every weak company. October 22nd, 1907. Evening. Morgan invites all top bankers to his library. Says, "You caused this mess. Now you'll help fix it." Some resist. Don't want to risk their own banks. Morgan stands up, walks to the doors, locks them. Yes, literally locks the bankers inside. Says, "No one leaves until we agree." Hours pass. Bankers argue, yell, beg. Morgan sits silently, reading a book. At midnight, he looks up. "Gentlemen, you have 10 minutes to sign." Under pressure, they sign. Pledge $25 million, over $800 million today, to support failing banks. Next morning's headlines: Morgan saves Wall Street. Morgan had just analyzed the entire national banking system, organized top bankers into action, supplied emergency funds, restored market confidence, prevented complete collapse, without any title, without military force, without a speech. But this time something changed. People were grateful, but also terrified. Why should we depend on one man? What if Morgan dies? What if he refuses next time? This fear gave birth to a movement. Create a real central bank. Eventually led to the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1913. In short, Morgan's power was so big that America created a new system just to replace him. The government turns on Morgan. Morgan saved America twice, built industries, created order in chaos. But now America asks a dangerous question. Should one man have this much power? 1901. President Theodore Roosevelt becomes president. Young, bold, mission, break the trusts. And Morgan's name is at the top of that list. 1901. Morgan creates Northern Securities, combining multiple major railroads. Roosevelt believes it's a monopoly. Too much power. Too dangerous. So he sues Morgan's company. First time the U.S. government ever took such a powerful businessman to court. When Morgan hears, he's shocked. He meets Roosevelt's team and says something unforgettable. "If we've done anything wrong, send your man to my man and they can fix it up. That's business." What he meant? We solve problems privately, not publicly. Why humiliate me? But the government says, no, this time it's public. 1904. The Supreme Court rules against Morgan. Northern Securities is broken up. Shocking moment. The most powerful man in American business, defeated by law. After the case, newspapers change tone. No longer savior. Now they call him the man behind the curtain, the invisible hand controlling America, the king of monopolies. Political cartoons show Morgan as a giant octopus with arms around railroads, banks, steel, even Congress. The final trial. 1912. The Pujo Committee investigation. Goal: prove that Morgan and a small group of bankers created a secret network controlling America's economy. For the first and only time, Morgan is called to testify before Congress. Morgan is now mid-70s. Heavier, slower, still intimidating, but clearly aging. In the courtroom, surrounded by lawyers and reporters, questioning begins. Committee member asks, "Mr. Morgan, don't banks loan money based on property and assets?" Morgan answers, "No, sir. The first thing is character. Before money or property, we ask, is this man honest? Can he be trusted?" This one sentence shocks the room. Morgan isn't just talking about banking. He's talking about the foundation of trust. But the public doesn't care anymore. They want blood. They want control back to government. Investigation results. Morgan and a few bankers had control over 112 directorships, 47 major corporations, companies worth over $22 billion, early 1900s dollars. Conclusion: dangerous, undemocratic, too much concentration of power. This investigation pushed creation of Federal Reserve System, new banking regulations, greater government oversight of Wall Street. Morgan doesn't fight the changes. He's seen the future. The age of personal financial empires is ending. He returns to private life, spends time in Europe, reading, reflecting, not angry, simply done. The final days. March 1913. Rome, Italy. J.P. Morgan, the man who once controlled American finance like a chessboard, is now old. Not defeated, not broken, just tired. He stays at the Grand Hotel Plaza, meeting friends, diplomats, art dealers. But something's different. He's quieter, more thoughtful, almost as if saying goodbye without using words. March 31st, 1913. Morning. John Pierpont Morgan dies peacefully in his room. No straged, no noise, just a quiet end. He was 75 years old. Headlines worldwide. J.P. Morgan dead. Giant of finance passes in Rome. Master of Wall Street is gone. In New York, the stock exchange closes for 2 hours, something they only did for presidents. His body returns to America. Private funeral. No grand speeches. No golden tombs. Just silence as the man who controlled the world's money was lowered into the ground. The legacy. Everyone expected Morgan to be the richest man in the world. His personal fortune? Only $80 million. Much less than Rockefeller. Less than Carnegie. Why? Because Morgan never chased personal wealth. He chased power, order, and legacy. He once said, "Money is only a tool. The goal is stability. The reward is trust." What he left behind? The Morgan Library, a temple of knowledge filled with ancient manuscripts, first editions of the Bible, letters from kings and queens, original works by Mozart, Beethoven, Michelangelo, paintings by Rembrandt, Botticelli, Raphael. He left it for the public. Still open today in New York. His banking firm, J.P. Morgan and Company, continued growing. Advised presidents, kings, governments. Coordinated global finance through World War I. Year 2000. Merged with Chase Manhattan to become J.P. Morgan Chase. Today, the largest bank in the United States. Trillions in assets. The name J.P. Morgan is still on buildings, stock tickers, news headlines every single day. He's gone, but his signature still signs the economy. What we learned: J.P. Morgan was not a hero, not a villain. He was a system in human form. From his life, we learn: 1. The power of trust. His power came from confidence. Credit is the trust of people. Lose it, lose everything. 2. Character over everything. Even in billion-dollar decisions, he asked, "Is this man honest?" 3. Silence is power. Never gave speeches, never wanted fame, but his results shouted across the world. 4. Build structure, not just wealth. He didn't just invest. He rebuilt. He created order in chaos. 5. Never panic in a panic. While others screamed, he stayed calm. And because of that, the country followed. Morgan never wrote an autobiography, never told the world what he felt inside. But those who knew him said, he didn't love money. He loved systems. He didn't chase luxury. He chased order. He didn't want fame. He wanted to build something that would last. And he did. Over 100 years later, the world still runs on systems J.P. Morgan built. If this story inspired you, subscribe. Share it with someone who needs to hear this. And remember, you don't need to be loud to be powerful. You don't need to be perfect to be remembered. You just need to build something that lasts.